Good morning, everyone. So, today's event is Tips to Succeed in an Agile Contract, and I request Manoj Khanna to take over from here. He is going to facilitate the panel discussion. So, over to you, Manoj.
Thank you, Jenia. I welcome all of you into our today's panel discussion on agile contracts. So, today in this VUCA world, technologies are transforming at a very rapid pace, and requirements in the software development process changes every day. Although we have adopted agile and lean principles to curb these challenges, but and thought of welcoming the changes at every stage. But what about the financial aspects that are related to contracts and these projects? Doesn't that limits our capability, our agility to deliver the best possible solution to our customers? So the software development community has been working with fixed price and T&M contracts for ages, which were based on the iron triangle: scope, time, and cost. But with agile software development process, the scope keeps on changing. Then how we are supposed to keep the other aspects fixed? That is timeline and the cost. So agile contracts has been an emerging concept, which is a dynamic contract based on continuous review and amendment process with respect to changing scope and the timeline. So, on the same note, we have our today's panelists to discuss their real life experiences with agile contracts. So, let me first introduce myself. Uh, I have been working as a business analyst in Deciphers on software for last 2 years, and I have also been working in digital marketing domain and business development for the company. I am also responsible for its digital marketing campaign. So I would like to welcome Pranay, who is CEO of Vedic Tech Solution. And Pranay, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Manoj. Good morning to everyone. It's a pleasure to be part of this eminent community called Agile Network India. Thank you, Priyank and Manoj, for inviting me and setting up this very important panel discussion for today. It's very relevant in today's time. About myself, I am founder and CEO of a product development company called Vedic Tech. It's a design focused company. We have 9+ years in business. We have developed about 2,000 solution in web, mobile, IoT for the clients in 10+ countries. We have a very strong focus in UX UI to build user centric solutions, and we have integrated QA and DevOps processes. And being a project like a product development company, we focus on very strongly on agile practices to deliver business success to our customers. So yeah, that's about Vedic Tech.
Thank you, Pranay. So I would like to welcome Siddharth Parekh, who is Vice President of DevOps Practices, NatWest Group. So Siddharth, please introduce yourself.
Hey, hi, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this ANI event. I hope I'm loud and clear and audible to you. So I'm leading globally on a DevOps Center of Excellence practice for the NatWest Group. And the people out here, if you're not aware of what NatWest Group is, we are a bank of brands. Our brands are primarily NatWest Bank, NatWest Investments, Royal Bank of Scotland, Ulster Bank, Coates Bank, Lombard, Adam Company, to name a few. So I'm also in the enterprise and agile and lean coach for the organizations. I've recently co-authored a white paper on global digital skills. I'm also a part of the board of expert panel for the Crowd Credential Council. I am a global DevOps ambassador for DevOps Institute, and I'm also DASA influencer for the DevOps and Agile Skill Association. So great to be here, and great to be among the panelists of the experts out here. Hope you enjoy the rest of the session. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Siddharth. So I would like to welcome Navneet Sharma, who is Program Manager from Components Portal Services. Navneet, please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, good morning. So this is Navneet Sharma and I'm working as Program Manager in Components Portal Services. I have around 14 years of experience in managing various successful IT projects with different domains like fintech, real assets, and e-commerce, etc. So I'm looking forward with the event, and I hope we can share our insights on agile contracts.
Thank you, Navneet. So I would like to welcome our next panelist, Mr. Yash Rathi, who is Director of Customer Success of Login Radius. Yash, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, a great introduction by Pranay and Avneet, that able to see a couple of very big people with me. So my name is Yash Rathi. I'm working as a director for customer success and taking care of the marketing teams also in Login Radius. I have over 13 years now into the industry. Back from the background, I'm an electronics engineer, but did my management practices like education from IBS Hyderabad, and then joined this IT world 12 years ago. So it's a great experience. And with this agile thing, like a couple of years back, when everything was shifted to agile, being not a part of a very technical team, so we thought that how we can get leverage with this, and that was the point then that I got to know about agile contracting. So in my previous company, I was a strategic head and was able to see this contracting things from years now. So definitely it helped us out a lot and to get into the agile practices, agile contracting things and all. And definitely like a pretty good experience with this now. For me, I'm into this industry from past 12 years, and now taking care of a couple of more things like strategic planning, taking care of marketing, customer success teams. So before the customer like added to our portfolio, definitely we take care of that, and after that also with the customer success teams. For my company, Login Radius, I joined this company a couple of years back, and proud to see like we have 3,200 clients and taking care of over 1.2 billion logins in our system. It's a pretty big platform where we manage the whole login and the security and privacy aspects of our customers. And that's our vision, to make sure that we take care of the security and privacy aspects of each and everybody into the internet. So that is our vision. And that's how Login Radius evolved from past 7 years into this industry.
Thank you, Yash. So I welcome once again all of you to our panel discussion. So the first thing that I would like to know is, what according to you are agile contracts? Pranay, what's your take on this?
Sure. So as the name suggests, agile, it has to be quick and fast. And when we say agile contracts, that means you can get into contracts pretty fast. You know, in a traditional world, when it comes to software development contracting, or for any contracting for that matter, it takes up a lot of effort, time, and a process. You know, all the management gets involved into it, and on both sides of the business, with your customer and your side. So agile contracts helps you get into the project terms with the client pretty fast, quick, looking after certain aspects of risk, cost, and the scope of work. And usually it is beneficial in case when you don't know the complete scope of work, you know, or you have a certain risk identified with the project which you are not sure that how it will turn around in next 2 weeks or 4 weeks or probably in a month's time. So it's better to get into the contract with a customer with some sort of flexibility in the contract, and then after some time amend, review the contract once again, and then go into a full-fledged long-term contract with the customer.
Thank you, Pranay. Yeah. So Siddharth, what has been your experiences with agile contracts? What according to you are agile contracts?
Before I define what agile contract is, I would like to let the listeners out know regarding one of the agile values, which is customer collaboration over contract negotiation. And why I'm actually saying this is when to understand this, it is you will truly understand the intent and what agile contract is. So when we say that while customer collaboration is more important than the contract, however, a contract that does not support the agile way of working will surely hamper the partnership, regardless, whatever the best intent of from both sides to work in agile way is. And traditionally, contracts that we talk about, they are very defined, your detailed requirements, freezing them upfront, and then you have heavyweight governance and around your changing requirements. And such kind of contracts are absolutely not suitable for the organizations to, to adopt agile way of working, which requires dealing with uncertainties and changing in scope due to your changing in business priorities. So a contract to enable agile way of working must support, you should have flexibility in changing requirements. There should be an iterative development, incremental delivery, and also stopping the project that is not deemed to be adding incremental value. So coming back to the question of, what is the definition of agile contract? I would rather prefer for the listeners out here to know, I don't follow a definition, but I follow certain principles and practices basis on which I deem something as an agile contract. So the first thing is that your prices in your project should be structured around the iteration basis. For example, you should not be paying on basis on your milestones, but probably paying basis on your per iterations. Also try to see that to have a flexibility wherever and whenever it possible. And when I say flexibility, it could be on deliverables or cost or delivery dates or something around reporting. The third aspect is that, when you're measuring your deliverables, they should be in line with your business objectives. So your deliverables should be measurable and they should be aligned with your business objectives. For example, you should focus on outcomes rather than the outputs. As an example, let's say, you should agree on that after having this automation tool, the productivity will, for example, rise by 25%. So probably agree on those matters. And fourth, and the last point is, don't emphasize on the solutions, emphasize on the processes more. However, I'm not suggesting that, to negate these solutions. Let me take you an example. A quick one is, rather than providing a detailed information about the solution of the product which you are focusing in your deliverable, focus on the methodology or the process that you would adopt in reaching to the end goal of your customer objectives. So these are the 4 principles. Over to you. Thanks, Manoj.
So Navneet, what's your take on this?
So a contract is an agreement of execution between 2 or more parties. And traditionally, our contracts were, when we sign off a contract, they are not non-negotiable. And the traditional contracts are more focused on winning over the other parties. So that's the problem, according to me, with the agile contract, with the traditional contracts. So as Pranay stated that the contract should be flexible, and Siddhant also referred to the agile value about the customer collaboration over the contract negotiation. So according to me, agile contract should be flexible, not a rigid contract that foster collaboration and allow changes, welcome changes. And if the situation arise and the business goal became absolute, contract should allow the parties to exit from the contract. So that, according to me, the agile contract is changeable. So with all the iterations, as Siddharth also stated, so with the iterations, that should adopt the changes in the contracts also. So it should be a flexible contract, according to me.
Yes. What, according to you, are agile contracts?
Yeah. Basically, for me, I'll start with a small thing. Like what happened after before 15 years or maybe 20 years back was something which usually we have a waterfall model in place. There was a methodology which was a continuous working methodology, and for that we have some kind of targeted cost contracts or maybe time and material contracts. Things got changed a couple of years back. Things got updated to agile, where we have We have break down all these big chunk of deliveries into small deliveries, but the contractual activities were always same. So that was the gap, and that then this agile contract things the phenomena got started. So first of all, like the targeted cost is still there with agile. The time and material is also there with the agile things. So the contracts are now embedded to have the targeted cost, but there are small deliveries, small life cycles, and then we have another amendment in the contracts. So these are pretty much the win-win situation for both of the parties, like for the customer, for the delivery partner, that both have the exit clauses in place in a very less time, as well as both have the next level of understanding that maybe if the work is like more, they can change the contract anytime. It is not something which is a fixed one. There is one more thing that Siddharth mentioned, which was related with the incremental delivery. Rather than having like milestones in places, you can have iteration in places. So that is one of the things that was started with agile contracting, that in a contract you can just define that, hey, let's say if there are 1 million of API hits, there will be the charges, and whenever the API hits are high, there will be additional charges, but there is no like a cumbersome thing that till 10 million APIs they will already like have those charges in place. It might not happen. So both parties should have the win-win situation in there. That's the beauty of agile contracting. The other thing is like whilst agile contracting is there, you are able to close the contracts pretty easily, because POC can be done. A small chunk of thing you can plan with the customer, and then you can start working on a small thing. The customer will have more like trust and value with you, and then you can close down the contract for a long term also. So that is something which is a need of the hour right now, the time right now, and that's how the agile contracting things are getting more and more famous. Because again, with this particular situation, from past couple of months, we are seeing that COVID situation is there. People are very much focused to the essentials, and they are not taking care of the they are not thinking more about the future or maybe long-term future things. So this particular thing is very much suitable for agile contracting things, when you can define that, hey, let's start working on a small things first, and then for a long term, let's have some like long-term partnerships. But yeah, the customer is also happy that they do not have any risk, that they need to have a 5-year contract and they need to pay for 5 years, while the work might not be there for 5 years.
Thank you, Yash. So all of you shared very good insights on moreover on the definition of agile contracts and why do we need them. So what I would like to know is, what is your journey with agile contracts? So being an entrepreneur, I would like to know your perspective, Pranay, first of all.
Sure. So it has been a roller coaster ride in implementing agile contracts. To be honest, we didn't really meant to implement when we started facing some issues. People in software industry will relate to this common problem of change in scope of work during the project development from the customers. There is no complete detailed requirement gathering done by the sales people, and then when the project is into delivery, that's where all the points has to be like revised again based on, oh, this was part of the contract, or this was all the scope of work or not. So there were many challenges, and we faced, and we lost actually customers because of that, because we didn't have that kind of a agile contract terms with the customers, because it was a fixed cost, and the customer said you have to deliver. Then the changes that were required, and customers usually rely on our expertise to deliver the work. They just need the product in hand that works for them and their customers. So when we started facing this issue like 3-4 years back, we started doing some patchwork to our contract. Right? We said, okay, let's assume if this happens, then we will do scope creeping or put some change management practice. But that was just a patching work. at the end of the day, customer satisfaction was not there. We again had to reanalyze everything back and forth with the customer. And because we can't lose the customer, we have to compromise with our cost and productivity, and then we have to deliver it, right? It's a loss to the company. So then we finally said, okay, let's completely transform what we are doing right now, and we went into the agile contracting way of doing things. To be honest, it's not completely agile. Even at this point, it's a kind of a hybrid, but we are able to successfully deliver what our customer needs. We are able to keep the things flexible for our customers. For example, if I talk about a simple budgeting, right? With COVID-19, what recently happened in the month of March and April to us is customer budgets got changed, right? They came down. So what this practice helped us manage that customers and retain those customers during these difficult times. So we said, okay, let's review the contract. Let's say how many man hours of development you need, what are the things that you need to get done, and what is your actual budget for this month. So we are able to plan out all those aspects and able to retain that customer, with having those agile terms with them. So there is no fixed budget. We go on every month. We finalize a budget with their team, identifying what are the various costs at our end, what are the risks involved to deliver this, and it really helps our team to deliver faster and with peace, right? And it's contribute to our business success and our customers' business success. So yeah, so I would say this is quite a journey, and it has become more and more relevant post COVID. During COVID times, it has become more relevant to us and our businesses.
Thank you, Pranay. So, Siddharth, what's your take on this? What has been your journey with consulting and in banking domain?
Let me start with, for the audience out here is that, and they would agree to, at least the statement is that bringing tools, bringing practices are the easiest things that can be done in the organizations. I mean, you can start the Scrum or Kanban practices within just 24 hours, the time when you are aware of these one. However, the challenge of having the core values or the principles of Agile is difficult to bring in the organization, and it takes time. And why I'm calling out this example is because that's what our journey was when we were introducing the Agile contract. Now, we started with constructing and defining the structural and legal aspects of Agile contracting. And we came to the conclusion that they are not substantially different from traditional approaches. So we emphasize to the people, to the management, to the team, and to the business verticals that they simply require adopting a fresh perspective that focuses on different things. Now, for example, the traditional contract focuses on problems. What if things go left? What if things go right? However, in the Agile contract, you need to focus on the operational process and delivery. Let me take you another example for this. Now, what happens, if you have to define the scope of work for your project, how you will be doing that? So generally, when we talk about in the in per se in the organizations, they talk about that there will be party who will be drafting a traditional contract and would like to spend a great deal of time and effort trying to define each and every scope of work with great precision. Now, on the other hand, if you have to do similar thing with the Agile contract, what you would do that? You would focus on defining a high-level backlog of work. You would need to place greater emphasis on establishing the process through which your user stories, your work items, your work stacks are broken down and pulled into the development queue. And this is what has been a journey, and till date there may be a couple of things more to speak of, but this is the crux of our learning and what we are making it learn to the people out in our organization.
Thank you, Siddharth. So, Navneet, how will you define your journey in 2 or 3 points?
Yeah, so my journey with the contracting was started with a traditional waterfall approaches. In that, I was collecting all the requirements. We were working to baseline those requirements. And the contract periods for a minimum approx 6 months to a year. And in that process, we were focusing on the document, managing the scope creeps. Um, and in that process, we face a lot of challenges and problem with the changes, with the change in management. So in that journey, we start to look into the other contracting solutions, and after that, we understand that our contract needs some more flexibilities, and where we switch to towards the agile contracting. So that's my journey with agile contracts.
Thank you, Navneet. So, Yash, you have worked into a product and service domain. So, what has been your journey?
So previously I was primarily working with the service domain. So mostly the contracts were related with the time and material, or maybe the fixed contract, end-to-end contracts that we usually try to pull. So that journey was pretty difficult initially, because most of the times, even during the contractual activities or during engagement of initial business analyst teams, they try to close down the requirements. They try to close down the requirements with the customers, and then the contractual activities get started. And during that contractual activities, client usually change the requirements. So that was the change. That was the challenge that was coming every time. While after a couple of years of such kind of challenges, we got to know that what could be the best approach to mitigate such kind of things. So we dipped down the whole project, maybe the whole end-to-end project, into different small deliveries. And then like for those small deliveries, closing down the requirement is pretty easy. Like you can start, let's say you start with a complete portal development for somebody. You can start with the UI and have a contract for the UI. And in every 3 months, you have the deliveries. Every 3 months, you have something like the quarterly business reviews with the customer. And in those business reviews, you not only just take care of the delivery aspects in place, but you also take care of the contractual aspects in place. So contract was also a part of those quarterly business reviews. And after the business review meeting, if there was some changes from the customer side, immediately in the business review meeting only, we used to close down all these requirements and amend the contract. So that was the thing which was a part of agile methodology we started. We bring down the whole deliveries into small deliveries, and then we had these not the sprint meetings but the quarterly business reviews. Then we drip down those quarterly business reviews to the monthly business reviews, so as to ease out the customers that they do not have that much of anxiety in place, that maybe they will get to know about the each and every delivery as well as the contractual aspect after 3 months. Even we'll have those discussions in maybe 5 to 10 minute discussion in the monthly business reviews, and that was helping us out much. And the same kind of stories when we were trying to close down the other customers, or maybe the new prospects, when we had discussions with them, that was the go-to point for those discussions, when we try to convince them that, hey, we can have, rather than a yearly business review, we'll have the monthly and quarterly business reviews, and in that we'll be changing the contracts or amending the contracts according to what is required for the next maybe 3 months or 6 months. So that was something which was encouraging factor for our customers. Otherwise, when we try to go with the traditional, even the traditional agile approach, and try to convince those customers, we need to understand that the people who are going to close down with these contractual activities and all, those people are not very much technical and very much known about the agile processes. So that was the biggest challenge, to convince these people that agile contracting is best for them also. So that was my idea, my journey with agile contracting, and definitely it helped us out in closing the new customers, as well as to maintain the relationship with the existing customers also.
Thank you, Yash. So, Pranay, as Yash said, that they were reviewing and amending the contracts in 3 months and 1 month, and I have also seen the contracts are being reviewed and amended in 1 month. So, what is the iteration level in your company? Do you amend it on monthly basis or a shorter time duration?
To be honest, we started with a 3 months kind of a review with the customer. And then right now, literally, we are doing every month. We are more into agile practices, and the product pipeline are changing. The feature set of the products are changing. The market is more dynamic now. Industry verticals got changed. So suddenly we were developing some other solution, the solution for some other industry. The same solution has to now go into some other industry. That transformation really happened. So agile contracting and the practice itself help us have that quick transition into helping customers build the right kind of product, having flexibility in the kind of feature set they want to develop, how many resources, how fast or slow they want to go, to take care of all the risk at hand. So right now, literally, we are doing every month with our customers, and it really helps. It helps our teams internally to quickly mold themselves to the need of the customer, what they want to get developed. The communication is streamlined, and we are able to accommodate things into the budget of the customer. See, I'm seeing somebody as asking question about how the customer budget works in that scenario. So when you do every month review with the customer, because a lot of our customers are startups as well, right? And they are very, very short on budgets. They have to spend every penny in the right direction that gives the right kind of ROI, right? In a short, medium, long term perspective. That kind of working with them, identifying their needs and molding the roadmap itself for the better. It helps us manage those budgets. So we really work with the business teams of the customer, give them a complete metrics every month, say, okay, this is the kind of budget we are looking at. What's your budget? Let's work it out. And we make our resources available for them. So I would say right now it's really working helping us greatly when we are doing it on a monthly basis.
Thank you, Pranay. So we have,
Sure.
so yeah, you shared your journey with the contract. So in this journey, if I would like to ask you to define the challenges that you have faced with agile contracts in 2 to 3 words. How will you define it, Pranay?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge, majorly two challenges we have faced. One is like how to really educate the customer about it, how to make them aware, because they are still used to the traditional fixed cost, or we don't know, right, kind of a thing, that how should we really go about it. And it's very understandable because everyone doesn't understand how the software product development happens, so it's our focus is that to have a conversation with the customer. So we don't just send a contract on email, hey, this is the contract draft, just review by yourself and let us know your feedbacks. We really set up a meeting with their key stakeholders. We bring them on the call. We tell them, okay, this is that, and we actually educate about each and every aspect of the contract, right from what are the risks involved in initiating this project, what should be the budget, why we are keeping this budget like this, and why we have to review things after 1 month. So this is the kind of practice we have adopted to help educate our customer. The second biggest thing is now, because you have the customer and they agree to your agile contracting terms and say, okay, we are okay to start with a small 20,000, 25,000 kind of a project. Okay, let's circle back in a month. But then you have to educate your internal teams as well. You have to make sure that your internal processes are also aligned to what you have committed to your customer. So we as a company has also educated and made aware our marketing, business, project delivery teams, engineering teams, that this is how we are really going about it. And this is the flexibility that we are bringing in the system. And these are the key KPIs and the KRAs that everybody has to really follow. So actually, if you look from that perspective, the KRA and KPI of every individual in the team has altered, has to transform, so that they can understand and deliver on those aspects. There are regular demos that needs to happen with the customer, and our teams are very, very flexible and agile in setting up those demos. And that's how we have been able to develop that kind of success for ourselves and our customers.
Thank you, Pranay. So, Siddharth, what will be the 2 words that will define the challenges for you?
See, I'll keep it short since you've asked me 2 words, not more than that. So the first thing is that the challenge is, upfront estimates. Customers, clients, and the parties will always ask you upfront estimates on the entire contract. You tell me the price, you tell me the cost, you tell me the resource. And a contract that specifies detailed upfront deliverable, it contravenes the principles of flexibility and adaptation. That is the core of your agile approach. Problem 1. Problem 2 is you need to see how you can sell to your clients the benefits of agile approaches in order to amend the existing contracts, or maybe to structure new contracts, so that it allows the room for flexibility. So these are 2 challenges. In short, I would like to call it out.
Thank you, Siddharth. So, on the same note, Navneet, what will be the 2 words that could define your challenges?
Manoj, on this point, I would say only 1 word, not 2 words. So, as I think Pranay and Siddharth also stated same, the biggest challenge is mindset. So that's the only problem and the challenge we will face. That's a mindset, and that mindset is for internal stakeholders and also the external stakeholders like the customers. So whenever any change a customer wants, you also face a problem with internal buy-ins on the contract, and also with the changes, because mostly the team don't like to do the changes, because of course whenever you develop something, you don't want to change. That's our mindset. So every flexibility, every changes, or every adoption is required a mindset change. So I think, according to me, the biggest challenge is only one, that is mindset.
Thank you, Navneet. So, Yash, what will be the 2 words that could define the challenge?
Definitely. So already Pranay, Navneet, and Siddharth told you about a couple of many challenges. One challenge that we were able to find was related to the customer already have some budgets in places, and they already have the PO processes and all. So that was the challenge, that when you try to change the type of contractual activities, that was the one challenge from the customer side, that they already have the rigid processes in place, maybe some kind of systems like SAP systems or something that already are working on the waterfall and the previous models, and they don't want to change. So that particular thing was related with the like the type of convincing things that we have to do. So we have to change the contracts in such a way that their existing system should not get affected by these kind of new contracts. But but at the same time, we need to tell them the value of this agile contracting system. So why it is beneficial for them also. So that was the convincing thing. The second thing was related to the communication. Definitely, when we start doing like more and more communication with the customer, definitely it is something which is from the internal team side, that they need to do more and more meetings with the customers. They need to have more and more business discussions with the customers, and that can also be a challenging factor internally, because not all your team members are that much equipped with the commercial aspects, or maybe like the aspects which are related to the business, because most of the people are technical, right, when they are dealing with the customers. So those are the 2 challenges that were we were able to face initially. But gradually with the training stuffs and all, internal team members can get like more and more knowledge, and with the motivation levels also, and with the good convincing skills, you can convince the customers that with their existing systems like SAP or any other systems, they can still go with the agile contracting in such a way that they would not be in any kind of risk in the future.
Yeah. So my opinion and my experience is that customers doubt that they will not get the same value that they were getting with the fixed price contract. So they are quite skeptical about the idea of adopting agile contracts. So yeah, those were some really good insights. So you have shared your challenges, but now I want to know what will be the solutions for these two words, those two challenging words that you have stated here. So Siddharth, please share your
Uh,
experience.
See, in this case, it will not be two words because since you're asking me these solutions.
Yeah.
However, I'll extend it. So, the creator of Scrum, which is Jeff Sutherland, has talked about a concept as money for nothing and change for free strategy, which was widely adopted as one of the foundations for many agile contracts. Now, what this says about money for nothing and change for free is, so money for nothing clause says is that a customer has a right to terminate the contract at the end of any iteration. Remember, I spoken of earlier that one of the practices that we follow is your finances should be basis on the per iteration basis. So a customer in this case can terminate the contract at the end of any iteration, and they pay the vendors or the service providers X% of the amount of money of the remaining contract as a penalty for ending the contract. So this is considered to be money for nothing because the vendor in this case is getting paid and the work which they have done actually. The second aspect is the change for free clause. So what this says is that if the customer, in this case, continues with the same team and with the same, sort of iterations, and the customer is engaged to it, and if the customer stays with the same team and the product owner, in this case, wants to make the change at the end of any iteration, then these changes are free if and only if the total contract work has not changed, or in other words the scope has not changed. So this is one solution to overcome this challenge. The second thing is agile takes a pretty different approach to your working arrangements with clients. So instead of, again, I would repeat, I said something earlier, instead of finding problems left and right, and or probably focusing on faults or liabilities, agile approaches the focus on collaboration, transparency, and trust. So the relationship in this case between the client and the service providers or the vendors is based on the shared goals, shared knowledge, shared risk, and shared benefits.
Thank you,
That
Siddharth.
is what my take is.
Thank you, Siddharth. So, Pranay, in the last question, you mentioned about the contract terms and KRAs and KPIs of that contract. So, I am more intrigued to know about them when we talk about the solutions of that.
Sure. So we as a customer centric organization, has to really define how our contracts is working. When we say working, it's how it's successful or a failure for ourselves and our customer. And defining the KPIs for the contract is important. Just like we have KPIs for our team members, similarly, contracts should have some measurement. Is this contract working for us and for our customer in this relationship or not? So identifying those aspects of the contract, as I mentioned earlier, about maybe the risk involved in the project, the budgets, the scope of work, the kind of things that you need to deliver, maybe the quality aspects of the project. All these things has to be have a measurement of how it is performing for you as an overall term of the project. So every during the end of the period, we go and see, okay, if this contract is working for us or not. Indirectly, we are saying this relationship is working for us or not, because that relationship is binded by that contract at the end of the day, right? So setting up KPIs for contract is very important. You can identify various points in the contract itself, the terms that are defined between you and your customer, and circle back after a few weeks or months or whatever the contract period is, and say, okay, yeah, this is working, this is not, can we change this? So you can have a, just like how Siddharth mentioned, it's a collaboration, right? So contract has to be a real-time collaboration also. It's a kind of a work in progress. It's not a fixed thing for you. So you have to collaborate with customer to come up with a working model, and that works for both the organization.
Thank you, Pranay.
Yeah.
So, Navneet, what are your experiences with this?
Okay, so as I stated in challenges, the biggest challenge is, according to me, was mindset. So for the solution, we, for internal stakeholders, we have to adopt the coaching, and we have to train them and aware them on the importance of the changes. With the customer and the external stakeholders, we should focus on building trust and bondings with them, so they understand about this the uncertainties that contract defines, and that contract should include the transparency. So it should a transparent contract, as Siddhant also stated the same, and the risk that contract involves should be shared between the both of the parties. So that's my opinion on this point.
Thank you, Navneet. Yash, what are your experiences?
So as I mentioned, those 2 points, which is one was related with the external like parties, like both of the parties, and one was related with your internal teams. So definitely internal teams, as Navneet also mentioned, that regular motivation, regular training sessions gives them a pretty good learning about not only the technical things, but what is important for the business. And as Pranay mentioned about the KPIs, so I do agree with that. But apart from the KPIs, we need to take care of the KRAs also. What are the result areas where the customer want to actually foresee the project? So basically, key performance indicators are very important, because those are the essential points which are already mentioned in the contract. But what about the business? If if whatever you are doing for the customers is giving some success to their business, it is important, and your team should know that. So that was something which was a part of internal trainings to my team, that what is important to the business of to the customer, that is also important. Customer always treats our companies as their technology partners, and will help them into technology. At the end, they what they require is something which should be related with the, not only with the help into the technology, but in the business. So that was something which we have started, and that was a very encouraging part, that after a couple of months of communication, the customer started giving us some other recommendation, that rather than technology, you people are actually the consultants. You are now helping us out in a very short-term period, maybe in 3 months, when there is a business review. You are basically providing us some good insights about how we can get to our business and to the next level with the help of your technology. So that was some encouraging factor. But for the initial level of customer challenges, that they don't want to go with the agile contracts. So that was something. I'll give you a very small example. There are two very premium showrooms in front of you. Maybe I'm from Jaipur, so in the World Trade Park, you go to the 2 showrooms. There are 2 showrooms. One showroom offer you that, hey, comes to our showroom, pick anything, and you will get that for the price, or maybe 10 or 20% discount. The other showroom tells you that, hey, we have some options where you can get the loan, or maybe you can get the thing for maybe 15 days, and after 15 days, if everything goes fine, then pay the whole amount. Till the time, pay the amount for those 15 days only, right? So definitely you want to go to the second one, because that is providing you a paid POC. Maybe for 15 days you need to provide 20-25% of the amount. But yeah, definitely it will help you out. If it is not working, you can just paying the 25% of the amount, not the 100% of the amount, right? And you don't need to go to OLX or something to sell it out then. So that was the idea of agile contracting, that you can have POC in place in the first round, and your customers should be happy to use the POC. We did the same thing into our existing environment when we were trying to provide services to our enterprise level customers. And then we started working for the developer model also, where we provide 21 days of free trial to our to the developers to test our systems and out. And if they are satisfied with the system, they can go with the base plans. And then if they are satisfied with the base plans, they can go with the enterprise plans. So that step-by-step approach is actually helping us out. From past 6 months, we are able to see, with this COVID situation, we are able to generate more and more tractions on our website, as well as in our existing customer base also.
Thank you, Yash. So I have one request for all the participants. Please keep yourself muted and your camera shut. And I also request all the panelists to keep yourself muted whenever you are not speaking, so we could reduce the noise. So yeah, so all of you have shared your journey, your challenges, the solutions for adopting these contracts. But if I would like to know that for as a person like me or someone that who wants to switch into agile contracts, what will be the 2 or 3 concluding steps with which simple short steps with which we can switch into agile contracts? Pranay, please share your experiences. And
Yeah, we'll keep it very short. Sure, we'll keep it very short. 2-3 steps. So identify the risk involved in getting that relationship first, right? Second is have that risk shared with the customer so that you can come to some sort of mutual agreement to it. Identify what are the conditions or the terms that you can put in, like creating an MVP or POC and things like that, like creative solutions that you need to identify to have that contract very flexible. And then after a duration that you can come back and create a full-fledged contract with the customer.
thank you. So Siddharth, what will be the simple steps for you?
Simple step for me is asking questions within your organization, asking questions in per se to your partners. Questions like, do you think you have a strong transparent relationship with your partner, or do you trust each other and probably will act reasonably as the requirements emerge and they change over the period of time? How comforting and cognizant are you both with the proposed technologies and architecture solutions along with your partners? Or how frequent are you expecting the change in scope of your project? And for example, if your answers to the question which I highlighted are in somewhat in negative connotation, then I would suggest you to stick with the traditional approach of contracting, not the agile contracting. That's it from me.
Thank you, Siddharth. So Navneet, what will be the simple steps from you?
From my side, I would suggest that your contract should be transparent, and it should include the mindset of change. So it's not like it should not be a rigid contract. That so the first step is the contract should be a transparent contract, and it should not think that we will negotiate on those, and that's require negotiations, because that contract should adopt the changes, and the contract should focus on delivering the business goals and outputs on ASAP. So in our practices also, these days we are not accepting the longer contracts, like 6 months or 1 year contracts. But more focus is now on delivering the business with MVPs, minimum viable products. So the customer can start generating some ROIs on their investments. So that's the thing how we are doing. So I suggest on these points.
Thank you, Navneet. What's your take on this, Yash?
So for me, the very easy thing is to make up your mind first that you can go with the agile contracts. The second thing is when you are pretty ready with the thing and you have the knowledge of what are the benefits of value of agile contracts, definitely you can convince your customers also with the small POCs or things into place, so that they are also pretty happy with the new approach. And definitely change is always restricted for the customer, for the teams, but definitely it is required also. So this is the change of the time that we need to go with the small contractual activities rather than having a long term or 5 to 10 years of contracts. We don't know what will happen after 10 years, right? We didn't know that what will happen after 5 months before 5 months. So this is the very big learning for us, that the small virus actually get us the learning that nothing is fixed. And if you go to the market right now, you will purchase things which are essential to you, not which might be essential or might be required for you in the near future. So that is the thing that we need to adopt in our day-to-day routine, that definitely if we are going with the contracts, customer will also understand that yes, they can start with a small thing in place. The risk will be minimum, and definitely it will be for the long term. Definitely relationship matters. So when we have a good relationship, when we have a monthly business reviews or maybe quarterly business reviews with the customers, they are very much confident about our services, our product, and definitely it will help us out to retain that customer for a long run. So agile contracts are always a positive thing to adopt. And for adoption, one thing is you need to adopt with your open mind.
Thank you, Yash. So all of you shared very good insights and very simple steps to switch into these contracts. So now I would like to pick questions from our audience. So the first question that I have is for Pranay, that while reviewing the customer and the competence level is required, is he legal person or a product manager?
It's a joint work of the product owner and a legal person, because of course the terms has to be defined, keeping in mind the legal aspects of, if you are dealing with offshore customers, then that has to be taken care. If you are working with domestic customers, these are the kind of aspects. So I think involving one legal guy is important, but because the overall operations aspect of the project, a product owner should be involved in drafting that contract as well, or somebody from the sales. I think it's a joint work of business, project team, and then project head, and then the legal guys.
Thank you. So thank you, Pranay. So Yash, there's a question for you that from Adrita, that when you say outcome-based contract and customer insists on penalty charges for missed expectations, how will you keep the charges minimum and negotiate with the customer?
Yeah, definitely. So whenever you are going to have a contract with the customers, definitely SLAs matters, and SLAs are some of the performance indicators of your system. So definitely the customer want to know that if the SLAs are not going to meet, what will be the charges. So it is a part of a negotiation practices. When we do the negotiation, we take care of these things. We need to make sure that the customer is happy, that if things are not working out, definitely there will be penalties. But what will be the amount of the penalties? That is the question, right? And I think it should be a decision of you and your customer in between, that what will penalty should be a part of the business loss that the customer might be having in their real system when our system is not working. So it depends upon the negotiation part. When the sales or maybe the legal team is having the negotiation with the customer, you need to emphasize on the minimum penalties, but on the same side, your teams should also know about the penalties in places when the customer is already closed down that into the contract. Your team should know that what are the penalties. Let's say that 10% of the amount is the penalty if 99.99% of the uptime is not met. So that is something that your DevOps team should know, that this is the penalty we are going to face if we are not meeting 99.99% of uptime availability. So definitely the risk will be transferred to the next level also, and your customer will be happy. But yeah, if the customer is asking for 30 or 40%, you need to evaluate that if it happens, it should not be a part of your business loss and altogether. Let's say if one penalty could give you a loss of 2 months of overall business, that is not something you need to just close down because you want to close with the customer. Sales always wants to close with the customer, even if they are asking for 100% penalties. Sales always want to close that customer. So definitely, as Pranay mentioned, that there must be couple of stakeholders into when we are closing down the contract. Must be couple of stakeholders from the technical side, from the DevOps, or maybe from any other legal division or something, to take care of the minimum risk on our side also. Whenever there is any kind of mishappening that might be possibility. So definitely the charges should be minimum, but it should not. It should be a joint decision between you and customer.
Thank you, Yash. So, Pranay, what's your take on this?
Yeah. See, based on your risk factor of the organization, it's really a dynamic decision to be made based on the kind of organization that you are running in, a startup, if you are an enterprise, small, medium enterprise, or a large enterprise. I would give a startup view, because that's where the most risk, because those startup guys just need work, and they finalize projects very fast. And they forget that there are risks involved with the penalties. I would suggest that try to avoid any penalty clauses from the customers initially, with the projects. It will give you a big dent in that way, because you can't expect to think. But you should identify proactively the risk involved, and have a clear dialogue with the customer, right? What are the various mitigation plan that you are putting in, right? That will help you get away from the penalty. The game is all about trust and the kind of transparency you can build with the customer. They also understand if they are it's a collaborative way. So I would suggest that just avoid those penalty clauses. But even if the customer is insisting on that, try to identify all the risk, make sure that you are able to cover all those aspects in place.
Thank you, Pranay. Siddharth, what's your take on this?
I see. First is you're getting into partnership of working together and collaborating. Over here, you don't have the intent of suing one or the other parties. So the first is, have you the intent of charging someone, or you have the intent of working with some? So if you have the intent of working with someone, then the contract will be accordingly being structured. Now over here, I mentioned earlier also, is the sort of contract that you're dealing into also sort of decides upon what charges or what are the liabilities that you put in. Now, for example, I mentioned about money for nothing and change for free. So in that, the charges will be if the scope changes. If the scope doesn't changes, there will not be any charges. Then you have another models of charging across. So one of the models is your story pointer per se. So what happens is in short, you decide, what are you paying to your customers or your service providers based on how much story pointer worth have you done in the iteration. So if you have done, for example, you agreed for 100 story points and each point is worth $500, you pay accordingly. So if 70 story pointer work is done, pay for it. So the intent should be to work. Again, I would repeat, intent should be the work to collaborate actually, not to charge someone. That is what my thought is.
Thank you, Siddharth. So the point that you mentioned, that you are trying to work, you are going to work with someone. So it's not about contract, it's about partnership. So on the same note, I have got a question from Mr. Harsh Rao, that what is the usual frequency of adopting an agile contract? Is it always linked to releases and deliverables, or can foresee future conditions in long term? How are the payment terms flexibly aligned? Pranay?
Yeah, payment terms are critical. I think that has to be what has given us success is that we always try to focus on client's budget, because software development is something which is very, very dynamic. New ideas come in, new kind of when you start working in, there is a process of iteration and all those things, and that's directly indirectly impact the kind of budgets, the cost at your end and the budgets at the customer end. So having a very clear perspective of how you are approaching to help customer manage all the things in budget, make them educate about this is the kind of budget, keep your margin profits in check, create a P&L for each project. So what has given success is that we have created a profit and loss of account for each project beforehand we get into a project itself, right? And we identify all the risk aspects of that project itself. So financial planning of the project and sharing that with customer and matching it with customer's budget, it's very important. So if you are owner of a software development house, or you are a project owner or head of operations or maybe head of accounts, you should learn all these aspects of P&L of the project, and then help internal and external parties to come down to a common ground on that. I'm not saying that you should share your margins with the customer, but you should still have some sort of transparency with them, that this is how we are planning for the cost, this is our cost, and this is something we're going to charge, and this helps us moving forward with you. And to be honest, customers knows all your margins and costs by default. They have already done a lot of research by themselves. So there is no secret. There is no trade secret in software development, especially in India. So don't worry about that. Be open, be transparent, create that level of trust with them.
Thank you, Pranay. So Yash, what's your experience?
Yeah, so for me, definitely it is not very easy for customers to shift to the agile thing. Yeah, definitely there is a lot of communication which is required, lot of the things which you need to make sure. But yes, for a service-based contracts or maybe the time material contracts, it is like a challenge. Because every customer want to close down their budgets, that hey, this is our yearly budget, and this is the only thing that we can offer you, and we want to close down. So let's close down that thing. So because they don't want to get into these iterations time to time, that maybe the budget could get increased or something. I'll take the recent example of our own company. We have a SaaS-based product, so definitely we have dynamically we have adjusted the pricing in such a way that the customer, if they want to go with the traditional approach, they have some things in place, they have the option to adopt that. But yeah, if most of the customers who are already into the agile things and they want a minimum risk involved, so they have an option to start with the small things initially. And if they want, they can have these add-ons after that. So basically, the benefit is pretty high, but you need to be prepared first. You need to have all these things in mind. Like Pranay mentioned, that they know that what are the things which will be having the additional prices and all. And as Siddharth mentioned, that they want everything for free. They don't want to for every new changes, they don't want to give you the money. So you need to define each and everything in your contract initially, that if there is if I'm providing you 5 things that are included in the contract, but rest of the 50 things, these are the charges which are already mentioned by me. So maybe in the future, maybe after 2 months or 3 months, they want to get 2 more functionalities. They know that what is the base price of those functionalities, and they can go with the negotiation practices. But they know that there is the additional charge. It is not something which is a free thing, and they will just request that, and they'll get that. So that is the thing, that you need to be prepared first before shifting every customer from your traditional model to the agile model. And this is the biggest challenge also. When we started this thing, there was some challenges that each and every customer is sounding like, hey, why these lot of charges? But we need to explain that, and communication is the key here. Communication, if you communicate things in a pretty better manner, definitely it helps the customer to understand that the transparency is there. There is no hidden things. Whatever charges they are going to charge in the future, they are already mentioning that. So that is some kind of risk cover also for them in the future.
Thank you, Yash. So, Navneet, I have a question for you: that are these agile contracts just limited to the agile frameworks, like like the Kanban and with the Scrum, or they can also be done with our previous models, with waterfall and with the fixed price contracts and T&M?
Yeah, well, that on that term, I would say these contracts are, I think, with the traditional project management, that's required everything upfront, right? So if we define our agile contracts, that's are flexible. So we are not defining anything in the at the first. So in my opinion, the traditional projects will not survive with the changes, because that carrying different values. So the contract, if we are adopting the changes with agile contracts, we cannot go with the waterfall, that where we defined all the scope and we create all the SRS. We sign off on the SRS and go with the customer that look, this is the thing that you have stated in the scope, and now you are asking for the change, so we are not going to do that changes. So if we go with that mindset, and we have that mindset with the traditional projects, I don't think that will work with agile contracts. And also with the T&M, that's also a bad practice, that we mostly increase the time for the customer, because we try to get the customer for a longer period, not want that close project should close on earlier basis, but we want to extend that that contract, so we can have some good business values. So with that, if you want to go with a T&M, maybe with a cap limit with on the highest point, we can adopt, but with the waterfall, I don't think that we will able to adopt the agile contract.
Thank you, Navneet. So the next question that I have is from Mr. RC Goel, that how do you handle cap to budget for contract through regular T&M in place? So Siddharth, would you like to answer?
See, one of the things that can be done is have the sort of contract where there is a flexibility of working together. Point one. Point two is there are certain kinds of fixed price contracts that also do exist, which could be adopted while using your journey of agile projects. I'll name few. One of them is your graduated fixed price contract, in which what you do is, if the work is completed early and the customer is happy about the work which is done, uh, you know pay them actually in terms of the per hour basis. The other sort of contract could be your fixed price work package contracts. Now, coming to the point which Mr. Goel talked about, setting the cap across is generally what I have seen is, you define the scope in the iteration basis, but the first thing that you may agree to is that this is the maximum that we would be paying to you. So for example, 1 million of contract is what we are giving to you. And it did happen. I don't remember, but there was one great organization which given the contract to the other one for $1 million or something, and they said, we have fixed the price for you. Now we will sort out the basis on the scope of the work that you do. So what you can do is, you can set your upper limit for the cost of the project. However, the nuances you can discuss upon basis on the iteration level that you are delivering through. I hope that answers Mr. Goel's question.
Yeah. So, Yash, what's your take on it? You're on mute.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, yeah, I went through the question of Mr. R.C. Goyal, and as Siddharth mentioned, I do agree with that. And for time and material type of contracts, it is pretty easy for the customer because it has always been agile kind of thing. They already have the exit clauses in places. But what about the fixed price contracts? Because so that there the agile thing really matters, and for you can basically have a hybrid kind of thing where you might be starting with a small fixed price contract, but on the long term you can have time and material in place, and you have the exit clauses as a part of your reviews, that if everything is working fine, then definitely they have the ability to retain that, and if there is any challenge, they have the a liberty to change the expectations.
I would like to keep on continuing the questions, continue asking the questions, but since it is a time boxed event, we will have to move on. So, Jenya, could you please take on the discussion?
A great facilitation, Manoj. Thank you. Thank you, all the panelists. I'm in a great learning about agile contracts, business values, handling the customers. Great learning for me personally. Thank you so much.